Halo Combat Evolved, or just Halo as I'll be referring to it from here on out, is a sci-fi action first-person shooter released in November of 2001. It's a game and a franchise very near and dear to the hearts of myself and many of my friends. It's no surprise that going back would fill me with lots of nostalgia from my past and memories of booting up my original Xbox only to get demoted to player 2 by my older brother. That was many years ago, and since then I've grown and changed a lot. Tastes and preferences never really stay the same throughout a person's life. And because of the media I consume, primarily video game critiques and retrospectives, I was worried that Halo wouldn't quite hold up. That's why I'm making this video. Cause Halo is shit. Nah, I'm kidding. It's still really good, and I think a lot of people should play it. Going back and watching the cutscenes with the doofy models that remind me of Star Wars games, or the character designs that remind me of the Alien movies, remembering that Cortana used to look way different, and catching subtle hints about other games in the series. It's also satisfying and fills me with as much joy as one could hope for. I'm going to go through the entire first mission of Halo Combat Evolved, and pointing out what it does well, what it does poorly, and just general goofiness had along the way. I'm still debating on if I want to do this for every mission yet, but that's not important right now. What is important is that I'm going to be covering the entire first mission, and I'm stressing the point entire because I can understand that being a point of contention for fans of the series. I don't consider reaching the escape pod at the end. Given the length of some missions, as well as the fact that you're still learning things on the ground, I won't consider us done until we hop into a Pelican. I want to do this mostly to convince anyone who hasn't played Halo before to try it out. Some people might be getting into the series because of the newer titles, and I want to urge them to try out the earlier games as well, despite their lower texture appearances and slightly more rigid gameplay. Since this is meant for new players, I'll try to avoid spoilers, although there are going to be a couple of goofy things I'll bring up at the end just because of how absurd they are. With that out of the way, let's dive in. We fade into a hauntingly beautiful score in a shot of the pillar bottom. A spaceship unlike any in the modern day, mentally preparing us that, alongside the title Combat Evolved, it's a futuristic sci-fi game that's ready to take itself seriously. The very first words said are,
Cortana, all I need to know is did we lose them?
This tells us that the captain isn't privy to the same knowledge as this Cortana lady, lending credence to the fact that she's the ship's AI. This line also tells us that the pillar is being hunted, and that fight's not far behind. Cortana responds in a very unprofessional and ambiguous tone, slyly remarking that they both already know the unfortunate answer.
I think we both know the answer to that.
At this point, we're hit with a shot from inside of the ship, and I can't help but bring up how awful this looks by today's standards. While the textures are barren and the models are a couple polygons off being a pet cemetery, the aesthetics are extremely on point. Extra Credits has an amazing video discussing the difference between aesthetics and graphics, but to sum it up, while the graphical fidelity of textures and models aren't top tier, it's the small details in the world that help immerse you into the universe and make it feel like a real place. For instance, just behind the two pilots is a strip of caution tape. This is because the pilots are sitting on a chair suspended above a gap. And if you were to walk past the caution tape, you'd fall right off the ledge to a good 10-15 foot drop. It's such a minor thing that many people won't notice, but it helps to make the world feel like a real place that these people actually live in. Back to the dialogue, and the captain is puzzled, asking how their pursuers were able to keep up, let alone arrive ahead of them. He's cut off by Cortana as she brings up a great line.
We made a blind jump. How did they...
Get here first? The Covenant ships have always been faster.
This tells us so much, and it all happens in under a minute. The ones chasing our protagonists are called the Covenant. They are more advanced than the humans, as the ships have always been faster. The Covenant have arrived before the humans, despite the humans making a blind jump, indicating that faster-than-light travel is something that humans have achieved. It's not relevant to the main plot, although it does help set how advanced this universe is.
As for tracking us all the way from Reach, at light speed my maneuvering options were limited.
Cortana name drops Reach, which despite this being the first game in the series, is a nice little reference for fans of the series. She also goes on to say that her options for a jump were limited, indicating that she truly is in control of the pillar. Her tone here also shows us that she's a little fed up, and that's an interesting note. Not only have AI been developed and mastered to the point where they can control an entire space cruiser, they have fully developed personalities and independent thoughts, humanizing this character who we get to spend a lot of time with throughout the rest of the games.
We were running dark, yes?
Until we decelerated, no one could have missed the hole we tore in subspace. They were waiting for us on the far side of the planet.
They spout off a little more sci-fi mumbo-jumbo about subspace and what have you. Then the captain asks,
So, where do we stand?
Our fighters are mopping up the last of their recon picket now, nothing serious. But I've isolated approach signatures for multiple CCS-class battle groups. Make it 3 capital ships per group. And in about 90 seconds, they'll be all over us.
Cortana informs us that interceptors have been launched to dispose of recon units. However, multiple groups of larger ships will be arriving in under 2 minutes. The Pillar has taken its momentary abatement and is raised back to Combat Alert Alpha. Sirens start blaring and crewmen rush to their stations as the captain commands. If it wasn't apparent yet, we catch a brief glimpse of Cortana, confirming that she is in fact not another physical human person we've heard talking, but the ship's AI, in her full, non-overly sexualized glory. From here we get a glimpse of the Marines and their design. We get a quick peek at some Pelicans and a couple of Scorpions, and lastly a few Warthogs, the only 3 human vehicles you see in the game. The designs are simple enough that you know what their purpose is, however they're all distinct enough to have their own reason for existing. Next we're treated to a speech from Sergeant Johnson, and this is too great not to just let play in its entirety. This man is an absolute gem.
You heard the lady. Move like you got a purpose.
This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Once again, it is our job to finish what the Flyboys started. We are leaving this ship platoon and engaging the Covenant on solid ground. When we meet the enemy, we will rip their skulls from their spines and toss them away laughing. Am I right, Marines? Sir, yes, sir! Damn right I am. Now move it out! Double time!
Attention all personnel. We are re-engaging the enemy. External and internal contact imminent.
All you greenhorns who wanted to see Covenant up close, this is gonna be your lucky day.
Next we see a message from Cortana ordering some crewmen to unseal the hushed casket, with this task being ranked Priority Alpha.
Whoa. Sir?
One worker is filled with an amount of awe at the concept of this order, telling the player that we should be excited at this request as well. The second worker accepts the order and states that they're going to,
Let's thaw him out.
telling us that this man has most likely been cryogenically frozen, a common trope for sci-fi media. We catch a quick glimpse of the control panel with a display showing us a certifiably badass suit of combat armor, contrasted with a quick pan up showing us that this isn't fantasy anymore. That suit is real and belongs to the Frozen Man.
This tube shows green. Cycle complete.
Next we're brought behind the eyes of this man they call Chief, as a crewman runs us through a seemingly realistic series of diagnostic checks to make sure the process is a smooth transition. We jump out of the pod and are given control of the Master Chief. It only took 3 pages of analysis to get here. Whenever you're ready, you can perform a test, which is really just introducing the player to looking around and perform a sanity check with the question of inverted controls. Next up, we're given energy shields and test its ability to regenerate. This is a huge aspect of the gameplay, as it allows you to take a small amount of damage without suffering long term, without letting you completely mitigate risk. Personally, I love the health and shield system, however this is dumped in later titles, so don't get too attached to it. At this point, our captain, Keys is his name, summons you to the bridge. The worker performing your diagnostics brings up the issue of skipping weapons testing, however Keys is adamant on you arriving at the bridge ASAP. Before leaving, a door is busted open in the control room, and a worker is shot with foreign technology before your very eyes. This takes us out of the mindset of diagnostic tests, and gets us mentally prepared for kicking alien ass. You're now running through a fairly linear path through the ship, with somewhat hard to notice markers on the floor directing your path. If you end up missing those, you even get a Marine who offers to lead you to the bridge. Truthfully though, both of these aren't really that easily spotted, as it's only now in my most recent playthrough that I notice either of these guides. One more quick event that happens before reaching the bridge is a pseudo jump scare with an elite behind a door. He's quickly shooed off by a group of Marines, however the damage he receives triggers his shields to flash, showing us that some of the Covenant also have energy shield technology, and are most likely where we learned it from. This also gives them a canonical reason to survive more than one bullet. My bit-by-bit summary of the first cutscene should have been enough to teach you what to look for, so I'll let this next one play out to brief us on what's happening as well as set the tone of the battle.
Captain Keyes.
Good to see you, Master Chief. Things aren't going well. Cortana did her best, but we never really had a chance.
A dozen Covenant superior battleships against a single Halcyon-class cruiser. With those odds, I'm content with 3... make that 4 kills. Sleep well?
No thanks to your driving, yes.
So you did miss me.
Report!
It must have been one of their boarding parties. I'd guess an antimatter charge.
Ma'am! Fire control for the main cannon is offline!
Captain, the cannon was my last offensive option.
All right, then. I'm initiating Cole Protocol Article 2. We're abandoning the Autumn. That means you too, Cortana.
While you do what? Go down with the ship?
In a manner of speaking. The object we found, I'm gonna try and land the Autumn on it.
With all due respect, sir, this war has enough dead heroes.
I appreciate your concern, Cortana, but it's not up to me. The protocol is clear. Destruction or capture of a shipboard AI is absolutely unacceptable, and that means you're leaving ship. Lock in a selection of emergency landing zones, upload them to my neural lace, and then sort yourself for a heart transfer.
Aye, aye, sir.
Which is where you come in, Chief. Get Cortana off this ship. Keep her safe from the enemy. If they capture her, they'll learn everything. Force deployment, weapons research, Earth.
I understand.
The Autumn will continue evasive maneuvers until you initiate a landing sequence. Not that you'll listen, but I'd suggest letting my subroutines handle the final approach.
Excellent work, Cortana. Thank you. Are you ready?
Yank me.
Good luck, Master Chief.
Your architecture isn't much different from the Autumn's.
Don't get any funny ideas.
I don't keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find ammo as you go.
This is a little bit of an odd phrase, seeing as when you exit the room, you start with half a clip and a decent amount of additional ammo, but I'll forgive it as it's a pretty sweet line. Exiting the bridge, we're met with a few grunts, the cannon fodder of the Covenant. This provides us with an excellent scenario to test out gunplay in a relatively safe environment before being tossed into a slightly larger battle in the cafeteria. We pick up an assault rifle off a dead marine and start mowing down grunts and a few of the elites. These are the weakest of the 3 elites, and alongside other marine soldiers, you should be able to win this fight no problem. You can also pick up the Covenant weapons off any fresh kill, however I never did this in the recording. Next, we're given the opportunity to sneak up on a red elite and melee them from behind. If you take this option, you can learn that a melee attack from behind is a one-hit kill, even on these tough enemies. There's an optional overshield in the boarding craft if you choose to explore. At a T-junction, we have the opportunity to sneak up behind the Covenant again, showing that there will be multiple routes, with some being more beneficial to different playstyles. There's a quick half-open door teaching us to crouch, followed by this.
This is the captain. Prepare to abandon ship. Combat teams, repel borders until ops personnel are away. Good luck. He's out.
The life pods are launching. We should hurry.
And a nav point leading us to a dark maintenance tunnel, forcing us to use the flashlight. This ends with the odd addition of melee attacking a broken door to open it. I call this odd because the broken door mechanic is literally never used again throughout the rest of the game. We quickly pass through the control room where we watch the first worker die, and see that the Covenant are in the cryo bay where we started. The music kicks up in the last stretch as we are given the chance to use grenades before sending us to the ground.
There's one last lifeboat. Quickly, get aboard before it launches.
Oh no! Oh no! Ah!
Now would be a very good time to leave.
Punch it.
Ah, sir. We're disengaged.
make it, aren't we, sir? I don't want to die out here.
Look!
What is that thing, Lieutenant?
Hell if I know, but we're landing on it.
Your Honor, she's been hit!
I knew it! The Autumn's accelerating. Keyes is going in manual.
Heads up, everyone, this is it. We're entering the ring's atmosphere in 5.
Sure you wouldn't rather take a seat?
We'll be fine.
If I still had fingers, they'd be crossed.
We are the only survivor of the crash. Heading out, we're warned of a Covenant dropship, showing them hot on our tail. You can also be slightly harassed by Banshees here if you stick around too long, however they aren't really a threat. We meet up with Johnson and his group of survivors from another life pod. After a few assaults, Cortana gets in contact with the pilot of a Pelican, who goes by the codename Faux Hammer. She comes in and picks up the survivors while dropping off a new toy for us, a Warthog. The Warthog is probably one of my most favorite vehicles to control in any video game ever. However, that appears to be a very subjective opinion, as at least one of my friends refused to enjoy it. Something I noted in my recent playthrough was the physics involved, specifically how the gunner's body sways and twists as you turn the Warthog. We get a quick taste of this unnatural structure underground before activating a hard light bridge and emerging out the other side. On the hunt for more pods. Another quick nod to the triumphant score.
Oh yeah!
Hugging the right wall is a pretty safe way to progress here. You find some Marines hiding in a cluster of rocks with their life pod being scoured by bloodthirsty Covenant. As long as you stay near your own bloodthirsty Marines, you'll be fine. And if some of them happen to perish, then feel free to help yourself to their 50 cal sniper. It will one-shot the elites if you can manage to get a solid body shot. The sniper and the Magnum are the only two precision weapons in the first Halo, and as such are the only two guns that allow you to scope in. After saving this group, you're informed of two more that need help. Unfortunately, Faux Hammer won't give you a ride, no matter how hard you try. In an attempt to head back out the same way you came in, we're actually guided to a different exit that leads straight to the second group of survivors. Let your giddy machine turret boy and quick-scoping sniper passenger protect the group while you run around having a blast. Afterwards, Faux Hammer picks up the group just down the hill, and if you follow her to the landing zone, it leads you straight to their life pod, restocking your ammo and health right below a second path out of this section. Passing the last life pod, Cortana says this.
Warning. I've picked up reports that the Covenant has located and secured the Pillar of Autumn's crash site. The good news is the captain is still alive. The bad news is that the Covenant have captured the entire surviving command crew. Let's hurry and find the final lifeboat so we can link up with the rest of the survivors. Lifeboat detected. No sign of survivors.
Make them count!
Man, what a mess. The weapons lockers must have broken open. There's weapons and supplies all over the place. Where's the bodies?
Maybe they took cover in that structure. Let's check it out.
Inside the structure, you find the last group of survivors. Cortana mentions that Keyes was taken to a Covenant ship called the Truth and Reconciliation, setting up the second mission as one of rescuing.
On the Covenant BattleNet. I found Captain Keyes. He's being held on a Covenant cruiser, the Truth and Reconciliation, a ship I disabled before we abandoned the Autumn. The Truth and Reconciliation touched down on a desert plateau roughly 300 kilometers upspin.
And once you clear the area, Faux Hammer drops by for the last time, and you finally get to grab a seat. And this concludes the first mission of Halo Combat Evolved.
We should move out, Lieutenant, and then we'll need your help on a rescue mission.
We've talked a lot about Halo and what it does well, alongside some things that it does poorly. This isn't nearly all that the game has to offer, but I hope that this has shown you at the very least why I think Halo has a very strong first mission. I also hope that this persuaded you to try out Halo Combat Evolved so that you can share the same game experience that I adored when I was younger. Truthfully, I didn't pay much attention to the story as a kid, and that's been unfortunate. However, the gameplay was fun and the theme was interesting enough that I'd love shooting aliens for hours. There's a link in the description to download Halo for PC for free, and to end off, I'm going to play those goofy clips I promised.
I'll call in a dropship to pick them up.
Take that! More of them! Dance! Wake up, man! Come on, wake up! God, I love this job! Taking heavy fire! Come get some! I found him! Whoa! This way!